about tools or practical considerations when capturing biodiversity data for the GBIF portal. So you just share my slides. So this talk is part of the Insect Biodiversity Data Mobilization Training course, which is part of the Bid Africa program grant that was received by the Natural History Museum, Zimbabwe. So in this talk, we should be able to download and use Darwin Core standards or templates that are according to the three data sets that we talked about yesterday. So the checklist data set, the occurrence data set, and the sampling event data set. And we should have learned some Darwin Core terms for our fields and the resources on where to get them. So by the end of this demonstration, you should also know how to use software tools that are designed to facilitate biodiversity data capture, for example, georeferencing and also generating unique identifiers. Then interpreting data that you have or your data that you generated, interpreting it into pre-existing GBIF formats for publishing. So quick recap from the previous talk. We talked about 5 steps in choosing which data class your data falls into. And if you cannot make your data available in GBIF, or if your data only contains a taxon that's related by theme, does not contain a taxon related by theme, then you will go for metadata only data set. If it does, then you ask the next question: do these taxon names correspond to an observation or a collection? If they do, then you're already eligible for checklist data set. Then if you ask further questions, whether your data has dates and locations associated with each entry, then you are now eligible for an occurrence data set template. And then if you have further information that denotes the sampling protocol, measurements, and observations on your observations of collection, then you can go for sampling event data set. Where do you get these spreadsheets? So these spreadsheets are actually available online. The templates are already available online. On this website that I've, the link that I've put on the side, you can get it on the PDF. And you get a page like this one, and you scroll down, you get all the classes and their templates. And I've also just singled out the actual download links to the templates that we're talking about today. So with each template, like I said, it's an Excel spreadsheet. And so that means it has fields and field headers. So those field headers are in Darwin Core terms. And you got to learn how to interpret the Darwin Core terms and how to add your own fields that still fall within those Darwin Core terms. And so this is the resource that we have. There's already a quick reference guide online, which is offered by Tidrick, which can give you those guidance. So for I'm going to start with checklist data sets template. This is what it will look like when you get it. These are the yellow fields are the required fields. And then these fields, maybe I'll call them pink, are the recommended fields. These are not the only fields that you can put in there, but these are what you need for it to be considered a checklist data set. So you have your taxon ID, you have your scientific name, and your taxon rank. I'll continue further down. So when you get the template, it's easy to use because if you hover around here, where the field name is, there's a pop-up menu that describes what it is and gives examples of what it might look like. So it's simple to use in that regard, and for every field of the required ones and the recommended ones, this is available. Then when you add your extra fields, obviously you would have researched on what they should be populated with. The required fields for checklist data set is already mentioned are taxon ID, scientific name, and taxon rank. And I'll go further and explain. So for taxon ID, it's required, and it's a unique identifier that's representing a particular taxon on this checklist. So you cannot have one taxon with two different IDs. As long as it's a particular taxon, it will have that particular ID. And here are some examples of how others have assigned these. And there are some spaces where these, like Gibbon, where these IDs are already assigned, and you can just download for your particular taxon. The scientific name is also a required field, and the scientific name would be having also the authorship and the date information if you know them. What I've seen about this field is it's not always the species and genus name together, but sometimes you have your specimens identified maybe to genus level, and that's the lowest level of the taxonomic rank that you have determined, then that becomes your scientific name. That's what you place in the scientific name field. So some examples. This is quite, so that's the author and date and then the name. And then here, they will be having some variations as well. And the author is there. Then where you have, this is where the lowest rank you have is order, then you just having that. And then sometimes family can be under scientific name because maybe that's the lowest rank you have. In the peanuts. And then this is what we're all used to. And then with the subspecies. Right. So taxon rank is the third one, and with the taxonomic rank, it's giving you everything from, it's giving you what rank your species name is. So if your scientific name is up to genus level, then you just use genus. If it's up to species level, then you use species. And you don't have to overthink this. There's already controlled vocabulary that you can get on the site that I've provided. So the other recommended fields to add to a checklist are the taxon rank and the kingdom, or even other higher taxa. We have them. Then also longitude and latitude and the geodesic data. So location can be included in a checklist data set. And then country code as well. It's the count, the individual count, to record the quantity. Here's an example of a filled out template of a checklist data set. The taxon ID, they've assigned one. The current name usage ID, they've assigned also. Accepted name. So these are the recommended fields which we've looked through, and they've also populated them. And then scientific name. You can also note that the authors are included in there. Then there are different levels. For example, this is just the genus with the author. in some albinism species with the author as well.